Hey guys, and welcome to the definitive ranking of Phantom Hourglass. It's going to be a fun one, I think.
Yeah? Yeah.
Well, have you played this in 10 years?
In 10 years, probably was the last time. I didn't
Okay.
play it when it came out, and then I played it shortly, probably around 10 years ago, maybe a little after. And it was a game I played on anytime I had to take the train, the
Okay.
metro, out of the city to go back home. And it was like an awesome train game.
Okay.
It's a very casual game, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I felt about it this time. I had similar feelings about it this time, and I'm glad we've been doing this series because for years I never really thought about why I immediately started playing Spirit Tracks after this, and I didn't finish it on the train.
Okay.
I just put it down.
You're talking about 10 years ago.
Yes.
Okay.
And so now that we've done both, I'm like comparing them. I'm like sort of seeing,
Yeah.
And I think that'll show on our scores.
And oftentimes, I know Phantom Hourglass gets lumped with Spirit Tracks as if they're like, yin and yang kind of games.
Yes. No, I don't agree with that at all.
Yeah, me neither.
Okay, cool.
And we're going to get to that. But let's talk about the world of Phantom Hourglass.
Yes.
We both gave it a 3.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. It's hard not to compare it to both Wind Waker and Spirit Tracks for different reasons.
Okay.
I think it kind of is a good middle ground between the both, like in terms of like the overworld. To me, it avoids some of the issues of like the Great Sea because it's inherently different.
Mm-hmm.
It's a much smaller game.
It's small. It doesn't take very long to get from A to B.
So I don't think it has that problem, though aesthetically it kind of
Mm-hmm.
is similar in that way. And then to me, it doesn't have the Spirit Tracks thing of like, I just don't like the navigation of the world.
You're
and
not
that, and
stuck on rails kind of thing.
yeah, not to say that like the boat traversal is particularly exciting for me, but it's kind of neat to draw the little path, and it for me it's really like that aspect of it is okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing I like a lot about it is just kind of how the world unfolds to you and going to the different islands, and you go to one island and it's like, oh, you need the sun. There's like a sun thing. Mark that on your map and we'll come back here. And there is a lot of fun like going back and forth between the islands.
Right.
Especially with going back for the Temple of the Ocean King.
Mm-hmm.
So I liked it in that sense of like the world map. I actually enjoyed going to most parts of it and doing the things there.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel there's enough on the sea as well to do. There's some islands that you never have to go to at all. There's a decent amount of just playing, like some of them are big ones too, like Bannon Island, and I like how the game. We'll get to this a little bit with pacing and progression, but like there's a lot of hints of what you need to do, but you can't do it yet.
Oh,
You
yeah.
make those. So I always like seeing those little pegs all over the place, and you're like, what are those pegs? Why are there wooden pegs everywhere?
Yeah.
And sort of like you're saying with the sun key, and then it's like you get the grappling hook, and then you see a wooden peg, and you can grapple to it, and you're like, where are all those things?
And there's like things, I like how it has the things you can kind of discover out of order, where you'll see like a map and it's like, oh, mark this on your map. And
Okay.
it's like an island you can go to, like Zhao's Island or whatever that guy's name is. That's one where you can mark it. And it's like you can go there and just see what's there. But I think later in the game, it's like you have to go there.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that it's like they get, and just getting all the like sea charts and stuff like that. It's similar to Wind Waker. It's very fun to like go around and grab that stuff.
I also like the. We'll talk about there's the primary characters that are connected with the story. We'll get to that, but I also like some of the side characters here.
Okay.
I like the Anuki tribe in
Yes.
particular, and I love their relationship with the Yuk. Like are the Yuk really bad people?
Yeah, there's a little story there.
Yeah,
that was nice.
They get stuck in the ice fields, and these guys are living in the Anuki estates. Like,
Yeah,
man, what kind of agreement did they reach 100 years ago, or whatever it was?
that was a cute little.
I
thing
love
there.
their character models, and they're just fun and just very cutesy. And I love some of the quirky other characters. I'm not sure how deep you got into some of the side content, but
a little bit. But
I like Jolene. Well, she's more of a main character, but then her
Yeah.
sister Joanne
Oh, I got the thing for that quest, like give her this thing, but I never did that.
Okay.
Yeah, it seemed interesting.
She's like the mermaid, mermaid girl, and then like the guy from Bannon Island falls in love with her, and like she stays in like a little swimming pool that he has in his room, and she just sits there for most of the game, and he thinks she's a mermaid. It's kind of, I like their interaction, and there's a few of those characters. I like seeing some of the characters from Wind Waker in here too, like Salvatore. You know, he's got the canon game.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I do like some of the characters in here too. They're a bit fun.
You only did 3 though. I mean, we've only said nice stuff, but I guess it still kind of has. It's kind of limited, the world, I guess.
Going to the navigation, it's not the most fun in the world. Like when I describe the overworld of Phantom Hourglass, it's like it's not egregious.
yeah, that's the best way of putting it. It's like, okay, I can kind of put this down and like look at my phone or something. Like, oh, enemy, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's okay,
but it takes
it's okay. I think this has more to say with there are other worlds in the Zelda series that I just like better. Yeah, maybe I could have justified a 4 on it, but
I think of like other worlds that I have a blast traversing. You know? And this is just like yeah, it's inoffensive.
Yes. The art style, I had to go look back and make sure I'm consistent on this, but
me too, a little bit, yeah.
I gave Spirit Tracks a 2.
I did too, and I said at the time like, oh, it had some unique designs, and I might have gone a 1 otherwise.
Okay.
And I was kind of expecting to go lower here. And then as I kind of got just like into the game, I was like, you know what? It's not awful, but there's nothing great about it either. It's
not very pleasant to look at graphically.
Yeah.
It hasn't aged well, and if this game ever got a I don't even know if it's like a remake, but just like I'm sure the textures are a lot more high quality, but they're reduced because of the power of the DS, but like, you know, it could look better. I do like some of the official artwork for this.
That's true. That is very good. And I also like just some of the character designs, like you mentioned.
The Anuki.
The Anuki and...
the little Gorons are fun to look at.
Yeah. There's and Oshus and some of the main characters who are new, I think, are really cool. So, like, I was like, okay, that actually, they're pretty neat. So, yeah, I couldn't go totally negative. But when I think of, like, just like the generic, like looking at the islands and like the way they look, the foliage and the areas, just some of the settings look kind of bland. The backgrounds, like those are almost a 1 to me.
Yep.
And like the dungeon designs too, I feel like it's just like wall, floor. They're kind of bland, you know. Yeah. I don't know.
Let's talk about the story, because I feel like the story of this game gets a little overlooked. I feel it tells the story of Seela. That's like her story for the first half of the game.
Okay.
Because she's like, who's this fairy? She doesn't know who the heck she is. And then like you awaken the other fairies, and I love the interactions they have. But then she like, you know, she's like awakening her own power. But then I feel there's like a side story, not really side story, but it's like Linebeck's character.
Yeah.
How he's just a bad guy initially. He doesn't want to do anything, but he wants all the money and all the treasure and the fame. And then like over time,
he kind of like does a little bit more until he finally kind of like sacrifices himself in the end to like help defend you.
Yeah, so he comes like full circle, I think, and I love his character development. And then it's not as exciting, but Oshus's character is,
it's kind of cool. It's kind of neat. I viewed the story similar to some of the other ones I've went through, like even Skyward Sword, but where it's like it's just kind of like a nice little story. I think Spirit Tracks I compared it to too, where it's nice. It's not overly complicated or anything, and it kind of just unfolds nicely. Like the pacing is really good.
Yeah.
And the characters are all likable. So even though it's not, it doesn't get like super deep. It's like pleasant and nice.
The only thing that gets, I wouldn't say super deep, but like the ghost ship, they make it, it's like a haunted, scary place. I think they do a good job of building it up. But the second act of the game, like after Seela's stories kind of unfolds, not as much happens. And the climax with Bellum, it's hard to gauge who is even the villain of this game. Like the ghost ship is the bad guy, kind of, but like it's more of an entity. Like Bellum is I don't know what Bellum is.
Bellum's a monster, though.
Yeah.
It's about more the journey you're on as opposed
Right.
to the monster, you know. But I don't think it ever gets like, yeah, it doesn't like ever cross the line into like greatness. But it reminds me of, at this point, it's sort of like the formula, like at its like midpoint, just kind of doing its thing, where it's like you collect the 3 things,
Yep.
and then you got to put the sword, you know, make your sword stronger. It's like that doesn't excite me that much. Where it's like, okay, I'm just making the sword again. You always got to
Right.
make a sword in Zelda.
Yeah.
You know?
Why? It's not fully powered yet, though. Go get these things.
But yeah, the nice little like the things you go do though are all kind of cute, like going to the Goron area and the Anuki and yeah, I thought they were gonna go further with Linebeck because he was telling his like backstory with Jolene, and I thought
I love that too. Like,
I thought they were gonna reveal that he did something like actually really like cavalier and that but it like caused them to split up, but he was just like, yeah, we weren't really working out and I just stole all our stuff. It was like a moment where I felt like he was gonna have a big reveal, and like it was gonna like make you like sympathize with him more, but it didn't happen.
no, he's just a jerk a little bit.
And then even at the end he's like arguing with the fairy, and he's like and then they just are like rude to each other.
He's so fun.
Yeah,
I
he's
love
fun.
every time Jolene like takes over your ship.
He hides in
He
the
hides in the little box and then pops up. Whoop, like,
yeah, I like him that he's mostly kind of nasty, and then he has like those little moments. You
yeah,
know?
I love even the beginning. Like I hurt my foot, and it just shows like a little the graphics of his foot and like
his moment at the end with the Bellum fight is kind of an example of that. Of like, I don't think the story is really about Bellum or whatever. It's you know, the big moment is him sacrificing himself to help you. You know, and if you're thinking about the Ciela or whatever, her kind of now having this power to help you in the fight.
Yeah.
And so that's like the 2 characters kind of coming together to help you.
Yeah. Just one last thing about Bellum. It feels like just the last act of the game. You kind of question like, what am I doing in this game? Like, what's going on in the world? Like, why you're trying to restore Zelda, Tetra. Like, that's your main objective. But that's kind of like, I feel like it's in the background. Like, do you really think about Tetra at all in this game?
Well, for a while, every time I started up the game, it was like, help.
She's like, yeah, help. Yeah. But like, it's your objective or mission is kind of like,
We've seen it so many times where it's like, okay, we gotta save Zelda.
Yeah.
All right, we got Zelda. We still gotta save Zelda. You know.
Yeah.
That's half of the Zelda games.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you know.
Also, I absolutely adore the scene on the ghost ship after, where Oshus,
I
he just
know you
shows
love
up,
that.
and then like Linebeck's like leaning on Tetra in the background, and then the statue falls over, and he's like, ah, and he picks him up and like make sure she doesn't crack her.
Yeah, it's got a lot of little stuff like that. That's nice.
The pacing and progression.
Yeah.
I gave this high remarks, actually. I think it's pretty good. I think it does a good job, especially early on. You're not overwhelmed by the world. You're kind of restricted early on, but like there's the 4 quadrants and it opens up, and then like, but even within that, it's
within the quadrants. So I was saying with the world, there's a lot of nice back and forth, and not like force where you feel like, oh, I'm going back here again. You know.
Yeah.
Some people might feel that way about like Ocean King or something, but like just in general, the interplay between the islands is nice.
Yeah.
I said it with the world and the story. I think both kind of move along at a nice, almost casual pace. You know, I don't think you're ever bogged down.
Each quadrant has, almost all of them have locations that are optional. Like there's Spirit Island in the bottom left corner of the main of the first quadrant, and
that's another one that someone like tells you about, and it's like, oh, you mark it on your map and you go check it out. Yeah. You
don't actually ever have to go there. It does a good job of like opening these up, so it's like you can do things in different orders. It's like I would say this is different from Wind Waker a little bit, where I know I'm talking about world here again, but like where in Wind Waker you have that narrow strip of islands you can go to, and then it's like, okay, go to the whole world.
Yeah,
and you can sail around for the ages if you want to. This one, I think it actually opens up. You know, you are restricted, and this has been a reoccurring theme, I would say, since probably like maybe the Majora's Mask days, where it's like the world just slowly gets bigger and bigger to you, and it maybe in some cases like Twilight Princess or Skyward Sword, it's even more egregious.
Yeah,
but I think this one has a decent middle ground.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think when I think back to Wind Waker, like I think the world that they're going for is so much more ambitious than they actually pulled off.
Okay.
And I don't think that's like pulled off here. I think it's just it's noticeably different. But it just kind of, you think about it because it's kind of set in the same world. But I do think it has, like, within those regions, like you said, like some fun stuff to go and explore. But yeah, that's why I only went with 3, because it's not like again, I was talking about the world navigation. I'm not like, this is unbelievable.
So, right. The first half of this game is incredibly linear. You have to do point A, B, C. You can mix in some side content, but then the second half of the game, the game doesn't explicitly tell you this, but like you can do the 5th, 6th, and 7th dungeon in any order. I don't know if did you go Goron Temple?
I did kind
Temple
of
Ice?
the suggested order, yeah. But I noticed, like, with the Ocean King, there was a part where I could keep going.
Yes, you get the 3rd sea chart, and they're like, you can go further if you want, whereas it doesn't tell you that early on.
And I was sort of like, I'm gonna just come back to this, because I kind of know. I've seen, like, where some of the items that I couldn't use yet were, and I was like, oh, I can come back and do this better with more items, which will be a factor in dungeons. But I thought that was really cool.
This is one we both gave higher marks, the gameplay and the combat.
I love it. And I really do love it.
The community, this is a 2 point, so this is the lowest score that they've given to anything. But
it's incorrect.
It's all right, the community, you guys are incorrect. You heard it here.
No, it's fine. It's fine. And I get why this wouldn't work for some people, but this, to me, takes all the elements that the DS... They thought about what are all the things you can do with the touchscreen, and they translated it. It'll go into the items more too, but they translated
these
that.
are like one of the same in this game. Yeah.
There's some non-item things, obviously, but they translated all of the things that you could possibly do on a touchscreen into like a fun mechanic.
Yep.
And then for some bonus, like, little stuff, some of it's all required, but like there's little moments where they thought of, like, what are some like little cute gimmicks you can do with the DS that I get why some people don't like yelling into the mic, or like the closing it puzzle or whatever, all those like random little goofy things. Whereas I feel like in Spirit Tracks, they were like, what if we made multiple items based around these things?
Yeah. In particular, the microphone is not an important element to this game.
No.
It's not.
It's a novelty, which works for me in this. I get why, like, I was playing on a DS and then the mic stopped working. So it's like, now the game is unplayable because the mic doesn't work, which is stupid. But I at least...
you were playing the wrong version, but yeah.
There's some other...
Playing on my European console here.
I didn't know what I was doing, but like with that though, I still appreciated like all those little... close the thing is like, oh, that's like a novel little gimmick, Whereas like, in Spirit Tracks, it was like, first item, you have to blow into the mic for the rest of the game. It would have been one thing if it was like the last item or something, and it's like funny.
Along with the Spirit Flute as well.
Exactly.
And so it's like multiple key items in Spirit Tracks relied heavily on this microphone mechanic. Yeah. The microphone is not like...
There's like 2 parts of the game you have to use it.
It's you yell at Astrid and you yell at for the cannon to get a better deal. Like, it is such an insignificant part of this game, and it almost bothers me. I remember our pals over at our pal Andy Spiteri, hates these. To me, calling the microphone would be like, I don't like Breath of the Wild because it's one of those motion control games.
Oh, yep, yeah, pretty
That's
much.
what I would say. In fact, I would say there's a lot more motion controls in Breath of the Wild compared to mic controls in Phantom Hourglass.
Okay.
And it's like, who thinks of it as that? That's like so, it's not. But that being said, that's no fun. I don't like,
Yeah, we're talking way too much about it relatively to how I feel about it in the game. Writing on the map.
The map
is awesome.
Is the gimmick of this game.
Yeah.
Is like, every Zelda game has a gimmick. I think that's what this one is. At least, especially in your initial playthrough. It's the little things. Like, you go and talk to the little gossip stones and like, oh, there's 3 treasure chests on this.
Yeah.
Now, that's like...
Those are kind of lame,
but it's like... I felt the need to do it, and then like I literally mark on
still did it, yeah.
Did you mark on the map?
Yeah.
And then like the puzzles where it's like, even in that initial cave, like when you're going to Merkei Island and there's the 4 switches and you got to pull them in order, and the game encourages you because you sometimes don't remember 1, 2, 3, 4, but like I jotted down on my map. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, I like the ones where it doesn't tell you to.
Okay.
That always kind of like got to me a little bit was when they're like, you want to write this down?
Yeah.
It's like I prefer remembering it. Or
Yeah.
like I prefer remembering to write it down as opposed to that. But whatever, I
Yeah.
think they're trying to show off,
Right.
There are plenty of ones where you just have to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Like the island with there's like the one with where you draw the whale.
You
out
draw
of
the
the map.
entire island. Yeah.
I don't think it tells you like map the
It
island
hints
out.
to it. Yeah.
Oh, maybe. Okay. Well, regardless, I still think it's pretty fun. I think it kind of, like there's a lot of games where now with that and like marking on the map and Link's Awakening and Breath of the Wild, like Nintendo has sort of gotten some people to do what they wanted you to do back in The Legend of Zelda when they came out with a manual and they're like, you should draw a map and mark things down and remember them. Granted, they did it in a game where it's pretty easy to like remember these things.
Yeah.
But I still think it's pretty cool.
When I played this game, especially back in the day, I didn't play it on the go as much as you did. Like I remember taking it with me. I was in college at the time, and I'd go to the library and I just literally just set it on the desk, and I would play with just the stylus. I would not use my left hand at all. I love that that's the way you can play this game, and I feel like you can't really do that with Spirit Tracks a little bit because of them. And it's very comfortable to play this game. The only reason I really didn't give it is a 5 is the actual sword combat is limited, I feel.
Yeah, it's kind of like click on the things. Yeah,
and the boat combat is also a little limited.
Yeah, though I do. Oh, that's what I'm saying. I like doing the little salvaging mini games. It's kind of fun.
That is fun, actually.
There's something
very
rewarding
basic
about it, but they're fun little mini games.
Yeah, it could be a little frustrating if you fail, but
yeah,
it's easy enough where you shouldn't fail. Well, I don't know.
I eventually realized like, okay, this is not hard, and if I take a couple hits, it's not so bad because I'm gonna end back up near the repair anyway, and I got a ton of rupees, so I'm just just as fast as I can.
Okay.
And that made it more fun for me because it was like Fast and Furious trying to like
too fast,
drifting.
But the items are, you kind of hinted at it.
Yeah.
And
every single one I think is great in this, and every single one I think they almost exhausted like all the fun ideas you could have in this, which is granted it's kind of limited because I think that shows in the follow-up where they like what else can you do, but I think they get everything out of it that they possibly could with this.
We talk a lot the praises of like the boomerang.
Yeah, the boomerang is really fun, and it's the first item you get, and I think that makes sense because it's just immediately that's one you want to be messing with the whole game, I think.
Yeah, and this ties in with the gameplay, the puzzles. The puzzles are fantastic, I feel. Like some of the simplistic puzzles, and I love how they have, especially in the Temple of Fire, there's like building blocks where they teach you it's like a tutorial initially. It's like, oh, there's a switch over there. Like, I think it's the first room you get the boomerang. You just draw a path and you hit the switch. Oh, okay. But then in the next room, it's like, ooh, you can't you got to draw it around a wall. And then the next room, you got to draw along the wall again. But this time, midway through, you have to hit a crystal switch. So it's like, all right, now I know how to use this item. And then there's more.
Those are fun to do.
Yes. And then there's more intricate puzzles later on where you got to hit the torches in the right order and to light a can.
Yeah, it's not only just the touchscreens are really good, like it takes advantage of that really well, but then it makes really fun puzzles out of it.
Yes.
Actually, I think that might be too why I kind of stuck at 4 with it though, is that like the game it never gets like too egregiously difficult. But the puzzles build off each other like pretty well. But I was never like totally stumped or anything. But for again, what I was saying of like a light casual experience, I think it works really well on that.
Yeah.
Same thing with why I didn't go high with the progression is that like I don't think the game gets really like harder as you go on, but I do think that it builds off itself pretty well just in terms of using the items for the puzzles and stuff like that.
I feel this game has the best use of a boomerang. I feel it has the best use of the bomb shoes of any game in this series. I feel it has the best use of a grappling hook /
I like how versatile it is.
You can use it on enemies to grab their shields or whatever.
Some to just hurt them.
Yeah,
which is cool.
You can use it as traversal to get across gaps. You can use it to create tight ropes that you can walk across,
Yes.
or to slingshot yourself up to higher platforms.
Yeah, they really that's again getting like a lot out of this one thing.
Oh god.
Yeah.
And it's just fun. And then I think it has this might be a little one, but I think it's got the best use of a hammer as well.
The hammer's pretty fun, yeah.
Yeah, and this is one of those things that if you actually go to Mudo's temple first, of those last 3, you can get the hammer pretty early-ish, and it destroys enemies.
Oh,
if you use that in the Temple of Ice, and I think you could use on the Yuk and the Igors, those little, and you just destroy them in like 2 hits.
That's great. I even like the bow and arrow in this. Like I like aiming around with it.
Yeah, it's okay. I would say the bow and the bombs.
The bombs they're not weak, but it's what you expect. You know.
I actually think the bow is probably the weakest of the items. The aiming is a little awkward in real time sometimes.
Yeah, I never had an issue with that. I liked there was like a mini game with that, and
the mini game is fun.
Yeah,
I love that mini game.
That's like my favorite bow mini game. Maybe.
Okay,
and so maybe that's how I was judging the bow, is because that's just a very basic act of shooting the bow, and I was like, well, if this is the most fun, it's got to be the best, right?
Yeah. So let's talk about the dungeons.
Yeah.
Of Phantom Hourglass, and I think it's about time we talk about we got halfway through this video and we haven't talked about the Temple of the Ocean King much.
I like that a lot, actually. That is a standout element of this game for me.
Okay.
This makes me think of, there's certain elements I feel like they tried to fix in Spirit Tracks that I think are a huge downgrade.
Okay.
And this Tower of Spirits to me is not as good in this. I think they tried to do that of like, well, people don't like going to these same floors again. But that's what was interesting about this.
Yeah.
Not going back to the same location over and over.
I think it starts with the time element. Do you recall, especially like in your first playthrough or in your most recent playthrough, did you ever have trouble? Was time ever
I did on one of them.
Okay.
I thought I was not going to make it. I got there with like 2 seconds left or something like that. And I felt great, actually, about it afterwards. It was so stressful for a game that I said is very light and casual. That was the only time. Otherwise, I usually had plenty of time. I think I just got stumped on one thing.
Okay.
It's a little frustrating. I think if I would have failed that, I would have been mad.
Okay.
I don't know where you go when you failed. You start over?
Well, I believe you don't fail. You start losing health.
I would have been fine. Yeah. I would have been fine then.
And I believe you can start you just start draining your power, but you can get more sand. I loved that element the first time I played.
Yeah.
Just the time and running out of time, and because everything's new to you. You don't know the route, you don't know the order, you're discovering it in real time.
I found myself, it had this element of like speed running to it, where when I returned, I later made the like yellow portal where you could go back, but I was like, no, I'm just gonna do this again and try.
Okay.
Now I got into these new items and you can get new secrets, but I was like, I'm gonna try and beat my time, or like, try in a more efficient route,
Yeah. And along those lines, I think Phantom Hourglass does an exceptional job of reimagining some of those early levels with the additional items. So, the first time you go through, you get the initial boomerang, and the boomerang. I mean, you don't really go into the Temple of the Ocean King until after after you get the boomerang. That's when your first deep dive into it. But then the next time you go in, you got the bombs, and it like opens up a few little shortcuts here and there.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, all right. Then you get the bow and arrow, and there's a few eye switches that cause like wind geysers to go away. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And then it's like stuff that, going back to what you said earlier, where you see these things and you're like, what does this do? And then you just did a dungeon where there's a ton of the thing you interacted with, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And so there's like bomb chew puzzles in there. What I really like, actually, there's even puzzles in the first half of the Temple of the Ocean King where you can eventually skip. So what you were saying, once you get that the yellow portal or blue port, whatever it is. But then there are items like you can use the grappling hook in those early ones. There are puzzles specifically for the grappling hook.
Yeah.
Even though you never need to actually go in those rooms with the grappling hook.
And there's like other collectibles to get.
Yes.
So you would, if you want to get those, it's worth going to check it out.
Yeah.
Especially when you learn you can kill the phantoms.
Yes. And there's like there's even an entire section, I think it's like the 5th or 6th floor, with the bomb chews, that you can't even get to. There's like a whole area, there's like a door. Like 95% of people have never gone through that door because usually when you get the bomb shoes, you're coming back to the Temple of Ocean King. You don't do those early floors.
Yeah.
Unless you want to go through just to get to the midway point with more time. As you can see, I really like the Temple of the Ocean King.
Yeah. Me too.
And it's incredibly puzzle driven. It's the combat is there is no combat. And not until you have the sword, really. I mean, you fight wizards, I think, later on in the dungeon.
Yeah.
But it's great.
Yeah, I think it's the strongest dungeon aspect of this. I went lower because all the other dungeons, I kind of already said it before, but like they're really just a series of puzzles in rooms. Like it doesn't, there's some where it's like you're going back and forth between dungeons, but really what it is you come in, you solve a little series of puzzles, you step on a switch, door opens to the entrance, and now you have a shortcut. You go up the steps, you solve a series of puzzles, you come down on the other side of the entrance, step on a switch, now you have another shortcut.
Yeah.
So you're just doing like puzzle.
Very formulaic in that sense.
Yeah, none of them like I can't think of any like layouts of any of them. Some of them have clever stuff where you're like transferring stuff between floors and you got to put this gem here to like lower the fire and bring a different gem out. But overall, like the dungeon traversal isn't that exciting, but the puzzles within them are great.
And I love how distinctive the individual dungeons are too. They're, there's the Temple of Ice is clearly thematic. It's an ice temple.
Yeah, I guess so.
I like how some of them are like the Temple of Wind is like all the puzzles involve,
Yeah, that's true. That's
controlling wind geysers and whatever. Even the Temple of Fire's got the, it's like, and the bosses correlate with them too. Mm-hmm. You fight Blaze and he's
that's true. I just felt like with the art style or like just the graphics of the game, like none of them jumped out to me as like super exciting. Like they may as well, like, to me, I'm more excited even just by like different colored walls in Link's Awakening DX.
Okay.
That I don't know. It might just be like that. I just don't really like that art style that much or something. But
it might be just the nature of the console and this 2.5D kind of thing where it makes them blur a little bit.
It looks weird too because you're like looking down on it and you see the tops of walls, and then like when you see Link from the side, like it's just all black. You know what I mean? It's like you're looking in a diorama in like a black void. And so it just like looks weird.
The only reason I actually didn't give it a 5 is because I was like comparing it to some of the games. Like I gave Skyward Sword, and I gave some of these other games. I'm like, this is one notch below.
Okay.
But these are some of my favorite dungeons in the entire franchise, I think, as a collection. I don't think there are any bad dungeons in this game. I think they're all good.
I view them the same way I view like a lot of the rest of the game is like that it's like it's overall not mind-blowing, but the puzzles are really fun. It just fits really well for... It's why I could play it on a train. It's because, I have an hour and a half train ride, like this perfect amount of time to pick up and play, and then like you're basically done a dungeon and then some, and put it down,
Yeah, none of them are too bulky either. It's, Temple of Ocean King, maybe notwithstanding.
Temple of the Ocean King I would rank significantly higher than the other dungeons, though. Okay. And so like meeting them in the middle, I kind of have it like, yeah, it's good.
It's fun to play Goron Temple. Playing with Goron.
Oh yeah, that was one where I felt like it was kind of too short.
It was.
You only do it on like a floor or something.
A couple floors. Yeah.
Where I felt like there could have been more of that. That was cool. That was what was cool about the Tower of Spirits, was that they kind of imagined a whole part of the game based on that kind of thing. That was something that I think was worth like bringing forth from this game, where it's like, because I played it and I was like, I want a little bit more of this,
Yeah, I like how he had his own control mechanics too. You could just smash into the little rock choo-choos.
That was satisfying, and like the boss fight was cool with it and stuff.
Well, let's talk about the enemies and the bosses. So I mean,
the bosses they're all really unique and fun, and
this has some of the best collection of bosses too.
Some of them are really novel and like, that's really cool and neat, but like they're maybe a little too simple. Like I think of the one where you throw the bomb and it goes up. I barely moved. Like I really liked the puzzle of seeing him and getting under and throwing the bomb up to hit him, but like it was just so like it was not. I never felt like he was attacking me or anything. I just like threw the bomb up a couple times. But I love the idea of that fight, and so some of the fights had that where they were like maybe a little too easy. Maybe the whole game's a little too easy, but that was really fun. But then there were other ones that a little bit more involved that were like, this is awesome.
I love the uniqueness of them, and they use so many different elements of what the Nintendo DS could do.
Yeah, again with the items, yeah.
So you fight Blaze, the first one, and it's like, what the heck am I supposed to do? And then you see on your map, they've got they have different horn.
I didn't figure that out this time, actually. I just like powered through.
Were you failing a little bit then? Did it?
Well, he wasn't hard again,
Yeah.
so I was just like, why won't he? I get it's just to stick them together, but what's the deal?
Okay.
Wasn't there a similar boss in Spirit Tracks?
Well, there's Froz, and then there's Blaze and Froz.
I guess,
and they're the same model.
Oh,
One.
Did it have the same puzzle with that? Did I forget it?
That one had a fire and ice element.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But it's the same concept of because it's also the boomerang. You have to use the boomerang to.
But I never looked up at the top screen,
Ah.
and I was like, "What's?" I just happened to get it right, like
Okay.
after a couple times. But I think I do like that. I think that's cool. That is cool.
And it doesn't throw it in your face that that's the solution either. So
No, I agree.
then there's a lot of bosses that use the dual screen mechanic. You talked about was it Cyclops? Is it the one with you throw the bombs into the whirlwind?
Yeah.
You talk about the Cubist sisters where they're up there. And
Yeah.
Eox, I think the boss of Mudo's temple where you launch yourself up with the hammer
To hit the targets. I particularly liked the one where you couldn't see the boss.
Yeah, that's the other
best
where
one.
Crake, I believe, the Temple of Courage. You see the bottom screen as the first person mode or the top screen of what Crake sees.
Which I don't understand why, but
You need courage, I guess. I don't know. That's the one aspect of aiming the bow is a little awkward, but
sure. Well,
yeah. And then I'm like going through almost all the bosses here. Then I love the we talked about Don Garango, I think it is. That's the co-op where you play with Gongoron and Link. Then we got our throwback. We got the closest thing I probably have ever gotten to a 3D Gliok.
yes, that was my favorite one, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just liked making the little slingshots to hit him and stuff.
It's got that sort of fire and ice, or almost like that Twin Rova kind of, or the Trinix kind of, like you use the fire against the ice and the ice against the fire. And
Yeah, I liked it a little bit more than like Twin Rova, for example, because I felt like I had a little bit more control over the aiming of it.
Yeah.
It's much more basic, but I just found it a really charming fight.
Yeah.
There's the overworld bosses that are okay.
Yeah.
Not as exciting, but
Yeah.
the boat combat,
I love there's a lot of unique enemies that were first introduced in this game, or kind of in some cases like new variants of older bosses. So the enemies were fun. I mean, the only reason I actually didn't give it a 5 is I don't like that the last trio gauntlet of bosses.
Okay.
The Bellum fight. I don't like the ghost ship fight. I think that's a weaker fight.
Yeah, it's similar to the other, like the overworld boss fights are, whatever.
And the Bellum Beck fight is okay. That's okay.
It's okay. I enjoyed it for what it is. That's like the worst thing about any gameplay element of this game to me is that it's like unoffensive. Maybe the boat stuff is, because sometimes I feel like I'm tapping this as fast as I can and I'm taking more damage than I can deliver, and I just fail.
Like, you really need to restore your health when you're fighting these guys.
Yeah.
You can't power through. Like that one, the giant, almost like a whale, like flying guy before you go to Goron Temple.
Yeah.
With his, did you die against him?
I think so, yeah.
Like,
I think I died against all of them.
He launches those projectiles at you. You have to hit them. You have to, because then they restore your health.
Yeah.
And as long as you do that, you should never die. But, like, your instinctive is to just aim for the eye.
The first part of the Bellum fight's it's like okay too, because you're going up and down the floors, and that's kind of annoying to go up and down the steps. But I was just kind of like, again, I was kind of invested enough in the game, and I was like happy. Like, it was the opposite of some of the other games we've talked about recently that I gave similar scores where I was like ready for them to be over. Whereas this one I wasn't. I was like happy for it to be over. I'm like, all right, cool. Let's see what the end of the game is like, and it wasn't offensive. So
Yeah.
like those even didn't bother me really either.
Okay, I've got a bone to pick with this next category here.
Okay.
The side content and extras. And what'd you call the community earlier? Incorrect.
Incorrect.
Yeah, they are incorrect on this because this is tied for the lowest marks they gave.
My initial reaction was to be higher, but then I don't know. There a lot of them I didn't get fully invested in.
So you could talk about it first. Then
Okay.
Like,
Maybe more, but like I was picking up a lot of these treasures and
Okay.
stuff like that, and I was like, oh, cool. And I kept seeing them. I'm like, oh, I got to get that. And then and it was fun to go back through the Ocean King and get these things, but like I didn't really know what they were for
okay.
ever. And I was like, it was similar to the treasures actually in Spirit Tracks.
Okay.
That you eventually, I figured out you go to line back in that. Similar to this, I saw you could sell them.
It's purely an economy thing, more
Okay.
or less. Yeah.
But I never was like hurting for rupees.
Okay.
was like,
I actually
oh.
think this game has a pretty decent economy.
Okay.
If you're trying to 100% it.
Yeah, see that might be your different perspective. But otherwise I liked, I liked picking up some of the gems. I got like the power ones to get my sword all fiery. That was cool. And I really liked going and doing all the mini games of the treasure charts and stuff like that, and sometimes finding sand in the hourglass.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, that's great. Like I love finding that.
Yes.
Especially after my one experience. And I liked finding like ship pieces and stuff like that, but it didn't really do much. But aesthetically, I liked kind of changing the boat, getting the right look, for it was kind of fun. I could see if that was expanded more, like really getting into that.
Yeah.
But overall, I felt like, yeah, this is all right. This is okay. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
And I should throw in like the mini games. I liked the shooting one. But the other islands,
Which shooting? The boat
the little
with Salvatore.
no, I didn't see that one actually.
Okay.
I didn't come across it, but the archery
Okay.
I did. I loved that. It was so hard because he had to get such a high score, but I loved it. How challenging it was. But then there's a couple other islands I came upon where it's like, oh, you can like dig and
Okay.
do some of this other stuff. There's a couple mini game islands.
Mm-hmm. Did you do DS Island?
I didn't know.
Okay.
I don't know what ones I did, but I came to a couple mini game based places, and I was like, I did it once, and I was like, I'm not gonna come back here.
Okay.
So I don't have anything really negative to say about it. 3 is kind of my default side content score, unless I like really get invested in it, like I did in Skyward Sword with like upgrading my stuff.
All right. Well,
you do your thing.
So I gave it a 5. And I may argue that this might have the best side content of any Zelda game.
Okay.
That being said, even though I gave it a 5, there are some drawbacks. I think this ship collecting is a little much. It was a little too. I think there's 8 different pieces of the ship, and I think there's 8 varieties. So 64 ship parts to do 100%, and it's random for a lot of these, so it's kind of a little bit annoying. And also, sort of, I had this complaint in Spirit Tracks where the customization of the ship is not always there. I wish there were more elements you can change than just your amount of health. It'd be cool if, you had a speed upgrade or a power upgrade to your boat or any.
That could have been what could have gotten me invested in the long term. Maybe if some of the materials you collect, like that, when they added that into Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild, like I think that was great because now you're like, oh, I need to find like this Rudo crown or whatever, and like then it's like you're looking for Rudo crowns.
Yeah. You talked about the mini games, and I'm going to touch on several other ones. I like the bow on Molita. The bow and arrow on Molita Island is fun. The cannon game on Bannon Island is fun. You didn't do it's like a race with the Goron on DS Island, which is kind of a gimmick to begin with. It literally is a DS.
Yeah.
And the puzzles are, where would the menu button be? And that's where you dig, and you get it. One of my favorite mini games we didn't even talk about is the fishing. Did you do the fishing?
I didn't do fishing.
Okay. This is, I think, the best fishing in the series.
Oh.
And
I didn't know there was fishing actually.
Oh, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Like just because
if there's good fishing, I want to know about it. I love fishing.
I feel like the controls of the fishing are, because you cast your line and then you pull down with literally with the stylus, and then when the fish jumps up, you want to release. Otherwise, it's a decent mechanic, and it feels good. It's not like egregiously hard, but it is enough of a challenge, and you're drawing
You do
little
that
circle.
to reel it?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So, and then you're like, if it's fish goes to the left, you pull to the right. Fish goes to the, I like it. And there's only like 4 types of fish, but then you get I think Neptuna is the big one.
That sounds pretty fun, actually.
I like the fishing. I think it's fun. I think it's the best fishing in the Zelda series, and I think maybe the standards are a little low, comparing it to Twilight Princess or Ocarina of Time fishing. I'm not really enthralled with those.
Yeah. There's some Link's Awakening.
But we're just scratching the surface here with these collect. I love.
Oh man.
You know how I feel about collectathons. We talked about some of our favorites in the past, and I like that there's such a variety of them in this.
Yeah.
They're not always the greatest. Like I love that there's the 3 different variants of the gems, powered.
Those are cool.
Only complaint is that it takes you until the very, very, very end to get 20 of any variant, and then there's not much usage for it because you're at the end of the game. But you can, after 10, you can get the power upgrade. You can, you can use at least one of the upgrades.
Yeah.
So those are nice. Obviously, it has the heart containers. Always, good collectibles. The Sand of Hours are a nice collectible because of. Everything, it's based around the Temple of the Ocean King. Then there's the treasure maps, which, it's like this is a draw from Wind Waker, but it's always nice to get one because you never know what you're going to get.
I did love getting those, yeah.
Because there's Sands of Hours in there, there's rupees, and there's sometimes ship parts. There's stuff that you might need, and there's so it's a good collectible that
leads to another collectible.
That leads to stuff that you get excited. What are you going to get? Mm-hmm. And then, the sunken treasure aspect of that is fun, too. So, I feel there's a whole variety of fun collectibles and side content here.
Yeah.
And there's more, too.
Oh, man.
Now, this one is kind of, this might be more of a personal opinion, too, but there's an entire mode to this game that was a multiplayer mode.
Right. That is really fun. And man, we didn't even play it or think about it. Yeah. If I would have thought about that might have changed my score a little bit.
Now, not everybody doesn't always like this one, but I think this is like the pinnacle of head-to-head
This
Zelda
is better than
multiplayer.
the Spirit Tracks one, I think.
It's like capture the flag almost, where you got to steal your opponent's gems and bring them back to your base. And I absolutely love this game. Like I think it's really good. I think it's really good. Only downside is that a lot of the online mechanics of the DS are no longer available.
Yeah.
And you can't do some of the side. There's some collectibles even within the multiplayer. You get the big plays, they call them, which led to getting some of the rare ship parts. So you can't do that anymore with the multiplayer. But
hopefully maybe someday.
So there's so much, and I talked about all the various every section of the map has an optional island or 2 in some cases. And I think it was fun to explore those little areas, some of those optional areas.
I felt compelled to go. I got all the X's that I got treasure charts for. I didn't feel compelled to comb every thing and find all the islands. See, I missed some of the mini games. That's where it was kind of the middle ground to me. Is I'm the kind of person that kind of like to play through and find stuff, but if I'm not gonna go way out of my way or anything.
And I feel like Phantom Hourglass does a good job of rewarding players that want to keep playing a little bit.
Yeah, that is cool.
I feel sometimes in Zelda games, they'll use Breath of the Wild as an example. Maybe that's not the best, but it's what else is there to do in this game after? And it's you can go find 60 more gold school tulas in the world or something. And it's okay, well, But this, I think in the later, you can discover, there's a whole trading sequence in this game at the end of the game. But it's and you get the great spin attack as the reward, which is
cool.
Nice.
Wow.
A nice reward. You get the beam blade attack too. So there's fun.
Wow.
There's fun collectibles in the late game that are totally optional too, and it's not egregious to.
We didn't talk about this. Maybe it could have been in with the world, but I guess it kind of is here. But the warping, I didn't love necessarily.
Okay. But
because you get it kind of later, and you're But I will say I got some warp points later. You have to also find the spots, and they're kind of, I don't know. It's like, where is it? But I only got like 1 or 2 by the end. But I wasn't using them because I sort of forgot, and it only takes a couple seconds to get to where you're going anyway.
Yeah. This draws comparison to Wind Waker a little bit, where it's like, like you get the Swift Sail, but you could get it early if you want to, and that's sort of like you can get the Cyclone Stellate before going to the second dungeon.
Oh,
you could, but I mean, the game doesn't tell you to.
Yeah,
it doesn't guide you there. It's like,
yeah, I felt like that was a late game thing.
Yeah, like that'd be nice. That should be on like Bomb Island or something, or Cannon Island or something. Like it should be right there. Like, just my opinion. Like, so you like it's hard to miss and you get it right away.
It could be fun then to search out the frogs too. Maybe if people give you hints too, and you mark them on your map. Like, yeah.
And sort of similar with what was the warp song in the Wind Waker? You learned from, was it Zephos or Cyclos, one of the brothers?
I don't know.
The Ballad of Gales?
Cyclones.
Ballad of where it allows you to warp, but you don't get it until after you beat the Forsaken Fortress? Yeah. The second time. So it's like a little late in the game to get it, but the world doesn't necessarily need it, like you were saying.
Yeah.
It's helpful. It's definitely helpful.
I would like go to the next screen and I'd see where I like marked on my map the like symbol, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Sometimes drawing the symbols don't work. Like I've had trouble with that in the past.
I didn't have too much problem with that. Maybe on the doors sometimes. That was one that was a nice feature, but not overdone. Was like drawing the hourglass and the Triforce. Like if you had to do that like all the dang time, that'd be annoying.
So yeah, community and staff, both of you guys gave the lowest remarks to side content. So I don't know, like that, garbage.
How are you gonna look at the last category?
Well, I'm gonna come off my high horse here with this one, and I gave the music and sound a 1. Yeah, I think it is the weakest soundtrack in the Zelda series.
I think it might be 2. My low bar I set with 1 was an Oracle of Seasons, which I actually think might have better songs that I like in it more, but it had moments with the magnetic gloves that made it unlistenable. Okay. And I was like, okay, this is a 1 because I have to turn the sound off because I can't hear it. This one, nothing was like egregiously bad. Well, actually, there's this element of they reuse the dungeon themes, which is awful at this point. But also that song is bad. I will say that. And you do hear that a lot. Same thing with that song leading up to the dungeon area. That song is bad. But overall, the soundtrack is just very whatever to me. Yeah. It kind of fades into the background. There's a couple there's 2 moments where they stand out. One is where they reuse old songs. Okay. And I don't like it. Like I don't like when they use the like Ocarina of Time like Sage. Okay. I'm like, why are you write a new song. But I do like some of the songs associated with like Oshus and the Ocean King that are original. Yeah, the
standout songs are Oshus' theme when he's doing the storytelling theme, and Linebeck's theme.
Linebeck's theme is awesome. I think
it's fun, but the dungeons, that bothers, and the Great Sea bothers me. Yeah, I don't like that. It's a reused from Wind Waker, and then like I thought we moved away with like I think it was Link's Awakening was the first game that introduced separate dungeon themes.
I mean, A Link to the Past does a better job of it.
They have 2.
Yeah. But like, well, I guess this has the Temple of the Ocean King song.
But like, it's like, okay, that was in 1993. Yeah. Like,
I don't understand.
Every Zelda game since has had unique themes for the dungeons. What? I think everyone. But like, why?
I could go 1. I didn't go 1 because it wasn't unlistenable. Okay.
That's fair. Actually, it's just very not rememberable.
I will say, the dungeons, I was listening to podcasts while I was playing it. Okay. Same thing when I was on the train back in the day. I was listening to podcasts on the train and playing Phantom Hourglass. Okay. So maybe I did turn the game off. I don't know.
So maybe this is more indicated that like the podcasts you were listening to while playing Phantom Hourglass were about 2 out of 5.
Yeah. The sound of them could have been better.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Take that, giant bomb. All right, so let me piece this back
Don't get
together
mad
a
at
little
us.
bit.
Well, you just need this sheet, you know.
The final score, like, it ended up ranking really high for me. Probably higher than I would have initially thought, but the machine doesn't lie. It just spits out, and it tells you what my viewpoints are.
This makes sense to me with how you talk about the game.
Yeah.
You talk about it way stronger than Majora's Mask ever.
Yeah. I don't know if it's fun. I like this, and I think this game gets a bad reputation because people don't like playing with a stylus. I really think that.
Yeah.
And I think there's always,
which I get if you just can't get into that.
And I feel even more so than that. Sometimes people don't like to admit it, but there's always a handicap of handheld games. So because there's traditionalists that want to play their game on their 175-inch TV, sitting on the couch.
I've seen a lot of people say a lot recently in our Discord, like, with no or in comments and stuff, that it's like there's nothing backing it up really. It's just like stated like fact that they just say 3D games are inherently better. There's just so much more you can do. And I don't think that's right at all. I think it's a different medium. I think there's different things you can do in a 2D game that don't work well in a 3D game, vice versa. I think some things are translatable. And so I just don't get like that statement. Yeah. I need some more evidence of that, I guess.
Yeah. People, there's some kind of people that don't like playing handheld games. Yeah. There's some people like don't like gimmicks, so they don't like touch games.
I'm not a big handheld game player, really.
And some people don't like the art style. Like it's this 2.5D. So and I feel like it's knocked off by all of those. Some people, there's more legitimate arguments, like this game is way too easy. Could be a more legit argument, but
that actually goes a little bit to what I was saying. It's like sometimes the machine, it's a little strange because like I feel like I have this as the same score as Skyward Sword, but like in my mind, I actually like this game a lot more than Skyward Sword.
Okay,
but I like look and sound. This game I don't think is great at all, but Skyward Sword looks and sounds great. So it kind of gets a boost, you know. But like I just had a lot more fun playing this game.
Yeah.
So
right. That being said, the community and staff, with their collective incorrect, give you guys a hard time. Both of you guys think, collectively, that it's better than Adventure of Link and Four Swords Anniversary Edition.
That sounds about right with like what people typically say about the game. I think people usually do say Spirit Tracks is better. Because it's got the better soundtrack and whatever. But they're saying Legend of Zelda is better than it.
Yeah,
barely.
I find it intriguing at this point that the staff and community, maybe it's because there's a power in numbers here. These are the largest. There's anywhere between 20 and 30 usually team members vote each month in the poll. And hundreds vote in the community poll, but the bottom 5 are in the exact same order now, between the community and staff. One thing worth noting is I do this after every episode is, we record these and then like they get released 10 days later and the polls are still open. So I went back and I had to tally up some of the lingering votes that came in for Skyward Sword and Age of Calamity. So some of these got flipped around because we count all the votes here, and in particular, I think like we had like 3 staff votes for Age of Calamity that came in after, and it jumped up. Is it
a top 5 game right now?
It jumped up from like 3.72 to 3.78, but because there's like a cluster that are all next to each other, it leapfrogged 3 games because
it's insane.
That happened, and that happened with Skyward Sword as well. For it, Skyward Sword, I believe, dropped below the Minish cap in the community by fractional points, but who cares?
Yeah, no, it's interesting to see. It shows, I guess, how strongly they feel about Age of Calamity. So, top 5 currently.
So, Phantom Hourglass, a bit of a mixed opinion between our votes and the community votes. But
I'm happy with my score. Like I said, Spirit Tracks, I wanted to be done with it by the time I was done. Phantom Hourglass, I was like, that was a pleasant game.
Okay.
It's not my favorite. I'm looking up above, and once we get past like that and Wind Waker, I guess, like my top games, I think, are some of my favorite Zelda games of all time. But Phantom Hourglass is just kind of below.
Okay.
It's just a nice little game.
Well, that's going to move us to the month of April. And what happens on April 1st, by the way? It's kind of a joke of a day, right?
I guess so. I take that day very seriously.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we will be taking it.
We have a very serious game.
Incredibly serious, because April. Can we say it'll release on April 1st?
I can't commit to that.
Okay. All right. Well, you can vote in the poll below, because for the month of April, we're cheating. We're doing 2 and 1.
It's just so powerful that we had to put them together.
Yeah. So 2 and 1. For the month of April, we are going to be definitively ranking Zelda, The Wand of Gamelon, and Link, The Faces of Evil. Just the 2. No, don't lump all 3 CDI games into one. Just the 2, because they're the same game, same engine, same.
They're companion pieces.
Yeah.
You really, it's like the Oracle games. You got to play them both to get the full story. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how we're going to put it on the list. We'll just call it Wand of Gamelon, because I just like that name. But
oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
So for the month of April, we're going to play Wand of Gamelon. The poll is below. If you've played them, go ahead and vote. Do whatever you want with the poll. I think a lot of people have experienced these without playing them.
This is a very serious poll, so I want you to go into a very serious attitude.
Yes. We want to know what you think of the items. And
no
the dungeons.
fooling around.
Yeah. You know, I'm curious what the music is going to get in this.
It's all 5s, just total bangers. And
it'll be higher than some of the Zelda games, I think, because it's
higher than Phantom Hourglass.
Yeah. So we're improving next month with the music over this month. But thank you all for watching, and join us next month for some April fun.